Hello, this is John Jumper right here, and welcome back. Today we're going to do is how to install a web server on the Raspberry Pi, Apache plus PHP plus MySQL. After creating your SD card, and after starting Raspberry Pi for the first time, there are strong chances that you want to use a web server. Why a Raspberry Pi as a web server? But why use a Raspberry Pi as a web server rather than using services providers specialized in web hosting? First, from an economic point of view, you should know that web hosting services are not free, and that you have to pay every month per year, unlike the Raspberry Pi, who just need to connection. In addition, by choosing Raspberry Pi, you have the possibility to modify your services like you want. Examples: the size of the disk, the hosting of the databases, etc., which is generally not the case with specialized hosts, which is often sell shared hosting with low configuration capacity. However, to support more users, you should use a Raspberry Pi 3. The Raspberry Pi with 1 GB of RAM, rather than the Raspberry Pi Type B+, which is 512 MB of RAM. The question that now arises is how to make a web server on the Raspberry Pi. What is Apache? When we speak of web server, we often think about the machine, but this term also refers to the software that allows the machine to analyze user requests in HTTP form and to return the file corresponding to the request, or an error if the file isn't found or the query incorrectly formulated. As part of Apache, it's software that we talk about. At the moment, Apache is the most used web server, with about 60% market share. Apache has its own license used by other projects. In addition, the massive use of Apache, which has become the standard of web servers, coupled with its high popularity, has led to a tremendous abundance of documentations, courses, and other books dealing with its uses and its security. Whether it is for Raspberry Pi and Raspbian, or for a more general purpose machine, Apache is there for a safe choice, and the skills you will be able to acquire on the subject will always be useful. Apache installation. Before installing the server, make sure we have an up-to-date machine. To do this, we must have administrator rights, either because of the sudo command. Once the Raspberry Pi is up to date, we install Apache server. By the way, we'll take advantage of its give rights to the Apache file that you can easily manage your sites. Check if Apache is working. Once installation is completed, we can test that Apache is working properly by going to the Raspberry address. To do this, it is necessary to try to access to the Raspberry from port 80. This port's not being opened from the outside. It will have to do since the Raspberry itself. Do not worry, it's very easy. Simply open the Raspberry web browser and go to http://127.0.01. You should then get a page with a message like, "It works!" and plenty of other texts. Apache uses a directory /var/www/html as a root for your site. This means that when you call your Raspberry on port 80 HTTP, Apache looks for the file in var/www/html. For example, if you call the address http://127.0.01/example, Apache will look for the example file and that in the var/www/html directory. To add new file sites, etc., you will need to add them into this directory. You can now use your Raspberry to make it a site in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and internally. However, you may want to quickly allow interactions between the site and the user. For example, to allow the user to register, etc. For this, you're going to need PHP. PHP installation on your Raspberry Pi. What is PHP? First of all, you should know that PHP is an interpreted language, and as in the case of servers, the acronym PHP can have several meanings. In fact, when we talk about PHP, we can talk about either the language or the interpreter. Here, when we talk about installing PHP, it means that we install the interpreter in order to use the language. PHP, the language this time, is mainly used to a site dynamic. That is to say that a user sends information to the server which returns the modified results according to this information. Conversely, a static site doesn't adapt to information provided by a user. It's saved as a file once for all and will always deliver the same content. PHP is free and maintained by the PHP Foundation, as well as Zen Enterprises, and various other companies. It should be noted that Zen is also the author of famous Zen PHP framework, widely used and recognized in the world of business. It's one of the most widely used programming languages, and it's even is the most used for web programming, with about 79% market share. Again, all the skills you acquire on the language or on the installation and configuration of the interpreter will always be useful. So we can only advise you to learn the PHP, which is really a wonderful language and too often underestimated. A MySQL database for your server. A DBMS. What is it? Why MySQL? Now that we have set up PHP, you'll probably want to store more information for use in your sites. For this purpose, databases are most often used. We will therefore set up a DBMS, Database Management System, namely MySQL. MySQL is a free, powerful, massive use DBMS, about 56% market share of the free DBMS. Here again, MySQL is also central development, whatever the language, then you must absolutely learn and master it. Your web server is ready. However, you probably cannot access it from the internet. Indeed, it would be necessary that your modem redirects the request to your Raspberry Pi to good ports. To put these redirections in place and even get a URL, you should look to the DYN DNS and port forwarding. Alright, so this is John Jump and me during the experiment, during its final moments. I was trying to figure out how to make this work, and I have to be really careful of putting my files in my Raspberry Pi. So as you notice, one of them's turned on, one of my LED lights are turned on correctly, the connections are set up correctly, and I thought I was having a hardware problem, so I just changed it like 3 times last night, or should I say today in the morning. But again, it's the files. You have to be really careful extracting the zip file from my downloads. I just deleted my web 2.0, I extract it, then I moved it to my file of HTML, and this file is not in the zip, so I definitely do not want to delete that. But you could delete all these things, and bada bing bada boom, I have it. And I'm never going to say that catchphrase ever again, but I got it. It works. It works. It works. So after doing all of that fun stuff, even though it really was getting a little annoying when I couldn't get that last few parts of it with the files and all of that, and you got this magnificent page full of 0 through 7 buttons that are saying it's not on for my LEDs that I set up right here. You are now ready to turn them on using the web server. So let's turn on the first LED light. As we see, one of them is turned on. Let's turn the second one, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and last but not least, eighth. And all of them are turned on. Green is when you get a green image of the power button, it means LEDs are on. And when you get a red image of the power button, like so, it means one of them have been turned off. Let's take a nice view of the circuits with LEDs off. The resistors, the connections to the Raspberry Pi. Right there, bird's eye view. And there you go. That was the Raspberry Pi on web server. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I hope you stay awesome. And this is John Jumpa signing out. So interesting enough, I've been doing my experiment for this. This is John Jumpa while doing his experiment midway, and well, I opened my Raspberry Pi on Gmail, and I was trying to download my professor's PowerPoint. Well, before the download, I was just see if he had the code, and well, yeah, let me show, not tell. I'm moving my mouse right now, but nothing is happening. As you can see, my Raspberry Pi is frozen. So I guess I told my other classmate, did they have the same experience? And they told me they did. So, hey, you know, it's a learning curve, right? Be careful, people who are using the Raspberry Pi at the same time messing around on it when you have a tab open on Gmail. Or watching videos too. Yeah, she definitely told me that also, you know, freezes the Pi. Note to self, got it.